Welcome. You're now listening to The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. Expect a gripping murder mystery set in a quiet English village where everyone holds secrets. Follow renowned detective Hercule Poirot as he untangles a web of deception, hidden motives, and shocking revelations. Prepare for unexpected twists, memorable characters, and a finale that challenges everything you thought you knew. Chapter 1. Dr. Shepherd at the Breakfast Table. The story opens in the small, gossip-driven English village of King's Abbot. Dr. James Shepherd, a respected and discreet village doctor, recounts the mysterious death of Mrs. Ferrars, a wealthy widow. She apparently died overnight from an overdose of veronal, a sleeping medication. Dr. Shepherd's inquisitive sister Caroline, known for her exceptional talent for gathering and spreading gossip, immediately suspects suicide and even murder. Caroline previously suggested Mrs. Ferrars poisoned her husband, a claim Dr. Shepherd dismisses as nonsense. Over breakfast, Caroline presses James for details, confident Mrs. Ferrars died from remorse over her husband's death. James, a cautious professional, tries to avoid feeding village gossip, but Caroline already knows too much from the village milkmen and other locals. Despite Dr. Shepherd's outward skepticism, he secretly shares Caroline's suspicion, though he hides this from her. Chapter 2. Who's Who in King's Abbot. Dr. Shepherd describes King's Abbot, a typical English village bustling with idle talk and speculation. Two important houses dominate village life: King's Paddock, formerly occupied by Mrs. Ferrars, and Fernley Park, owned by Roger Ackroyd, a wealthy local businessman known for his generosity. Ackroyd, about 50, is an industrialist who tries very hard to fulfill the image of a classic English country squire. His first marriage ended unhappily when his wife succumbed to alcoholism, leaving Ackroyd to raise her son from a previous marriage, Ralph Peyton. Ralph is a handsome but troublesome young man, beloved by the villagers despite his reckless lifestyle. The village gossip now centers around Ackroyd's close relationship with the late Mrs. Ferrars, speculating an upcoming marriage. Ackroyd's household includes his widowed sister-in-law, Mrs. Cecil Ackroyd, her daughter Flora, and a stern housekeeper, Miss Russell. Ackroyd seems deeply disturbed by Mrs. Ferrars's death, confiding urgently to Dr. Shepherd that there is worse to come. He invites Shepherd to dinner that evening, clearly anxious and disturbed. Meanwhile, Caroline's incessant chatter keeps Shepherd wary about village perceptions. Chapter 3. The Man Who Grew Vegetable Marrows. Dr. Shepherd introduces a mysterious new neighbor, Mr. Poirot, who has recently moved to King's Abbot. Poirot's eccentric personality intrigues Caroline, who suspects he's hiding something significant. Poirot cultivates vegetable marrows, zucchinis, and, after accidentally throwing one into Shepherd's garden, introduces himself warmly, apologizing for his peculiar behavior. In conversation, Poirot reveals a philosophical view on life and hints at having been involved in the intriguing study of human nature in the past. Poirot admits he knew Ackroyd from London, though he prefers to keep his past occupation a secret. Dr. Shepherd initially believes Poirot to be a retired hairdresser, based solely on his unusual appearance. Poirot expresses interest in Ralph Peyton, noting his striking looks and peculiar character. Caroline interrupts, mentioning that Ralph is secretly in town and might be romantically involved with his supposed cousin, Flora Ackroyd. Chapter 4. Dinner at Fernley. That evening, Dr. Shepherd attends dinner at Fernley Park. The gathering includes Roger Ackroyd, his niece Flora Ackroyd, his sister-in-law Mrs. Cecil Ackroyd, his personal secretary Geoffrey Raymond, and housekeeper Miss Russell. Ackroyd is deeply troubled, confiding privately to Shepherd that Mrs. Ferrars was indeed driven to suicide by remorse over poisoning her husband. Ackroyd also reveals she was being blackmailed, though she refused to name the culprit directly. At dinner, tension hangs thickly in the air. Ackroyd seems especially disturbed by Ralph's absence, a situation Caroline had brought to his attention earlier. Flora and Ralph's engagement is officially announced, but the undercurrent suggests that the relationship isn't warmly embraced by all parties. Shepherd senses complexities beneath the apparently straightforward village relationships. Ackroyd later receives an urgent letter from the deceased Mrs. Ferrars, presumably revealing the blackmailer's identity, and asks Shepherd to leave immediately so he can read it alone. Chapter 5. Murder. Returning home, Dr. Shepherd receives a shocking phone call claiming Roger Ackroyd has been murdered. Rushing back to Fernley Park, Shepherd finds the house in chaos. Ackroyd's body is discovered stabbed to death in his locked study, with a Tunisian dagger from Ackroyd's own collection plunged into his back. Ackroyd was seated when attacked, suggesting he knew his murderer. Shepherd, deeply disturbed, calls the police. He reconstructs the evening's events with the help of Parker, the butler, and Geoffrey Raymond, Ackroyd's secretary. The letter from Mrs. Ferrars is missing, suggesting it could have revealed a motive for the murder. Police Inspector Davis arrives to investigate, and suspicion immediately spreads through the house. Dr. Shepherd considers the strange circumstances and growing tensions he had witnessed at dinner, understanding that suspicion could reasonably fall on anyone from the household staff to family members, even Ralph Peyton. Shepherd himself becomes uneasy, aware that the murderer must have been someone close to Ackroyd, someone trusted. Chapter 6. The Tunisian Dagger. Following Roger Ackroyd's shocking murder, Inspector Davis leads the initial police inquiry at Fernley Park, the victim's estate. Suspicion and tension flood the scene. Dr. Shepherd, serving as an unofficial observer, notes several crucial points. The door to Ackroyd's study was locked from inside, and a window was left slightly ajar, suggesting a possible escape route for the murderer. Davis quickly settles on Ralph Peyton, Ackroyd's stepson, as the prime suspect due to his unexplained absence, financial troubles, and rumored conflicts with Ackroyd. The murder weapon, an ornate Tunisian dagger from Ackroyd's personal collection, reinforces the idea that the killer was someone familiar with the house. Flora Ackroyd, Roger's niece, insists Ralph is innocent, and begs Dr. Shepherd to help prove this. She believes Ralph incapable of such violence, though she can offer no concrete evidence to defend him. Chapter 7. I Learn My Neighbor's Profession. Disturbed by the swirling rumors, Flora Ackroyd reaches out to Dr. Shepherd, urging him to enlist the help of his enigmatic neighbor, Mr. Poirot, who she reveals is actually Hercule Poirot, a famous Belgian detective renowned for his brilliant investigative skills. Poirot, now retired and enjoying anonymity in the quiet English village, reluctantly agrees to come out of retirement and take the case, partly due to personal respect for Ackroyd. Poirot visits the murder scene, meticulously analyzing details overlooked by local police. He focuses on the puzzling state of the window, the position of furniture, and particularly the strangely timed phone call that alerted Dr. Shepherd to Ackroyd's death, an element the inspector dismissed, but Poirot finds suspicious. Poirot quietly emphasizes his methodical approach, asking everyone involved to share precise details no matter how trivial. Chapter 8. Inspector Raglan is confident. Inspector Raglan from Cranchester takes charge, confidently asserting Ralph Peyton's guilt based on circumstantial evidence and motive. Ralph stood to inherit Ackroyd's wealth, had a tense relationship with him, and remains conveniently absent. Poirot, however, cautions against hasty conclusions, subtly hinting that deeper secrets lie beneath the surface. He begins a systematic interrogation of the household and learns that Parker, Ackroyd's butler, had behaved suspiciously around the study on the night of the murder. Flora Ackroyd continues to fiercely defend Ralph, although she admits their relationship wasn't entirely straightforward. Poirot remains neutral, carefully evaluating everyone's statements without committing himself publicly to any theory, demonstrating the disciplined precision of his investigative style. Dr. Shepherd, fascinated by Poirot's methods, increasingly serves as his unofficial assistant. Chapter 9: The Goldfish Pond. Poirot's meticulous scrutiny expands to Fernley Park's grounds, focusing on the goldfish pond near the study window, possibly relevant to the murderer's escape route. Poirot discovers a wedding ring hidden in the pond, a clue puzzlingly out of place, suggesting someone sought to discard evidence in panic. Meanwhile, Poirot questions Ursula Bourne, the parlor maid, noticing her nervousness and suspecting she's withholding crucial information. She insists she knows nothing, but Poirot senses deep secrets beneath her composed facade. Poirot also highlights Caroline's previous revelation that Ralph Peyton had secretly met an unknown woman in the woods. Caroline's account is now given serious consideration, raising fresh suspicions and highlighting Poirot's belief that each small detail can unlock larger truths. Chapter 10: The Parlor Maid. Poirot's attention returns forcefully to Ursula Bourne, the young parlor maid whose reserved manner intrigues him. Ursula eventually admits, under gentle pressure, that she argued with Ackroyd on the day of the murder. Ackroyd had criticized her work harshly, leaving her feeling unsettled and resentful, though she maintains this was unrelated to the crime. Poirot learns from other staff that Ursula recently joined Ackroyd's household and had impressed everyone with her quiet efficiency. Poirot becomes convinced she hides a deeper personal secret unrelated to her employment, perhaps linked to the mysterious wedding ring found in the pond. Meanwhile, the continued absence of Ralph Peyton remains troubling. Inspector Raglan's investigation stays fixated on Ralph, but Poirot encourages him, and Dr. Shepherd, to keep an open mind. Poirot implies the solution will emerge from examining interpersonal relationships and subtle personal motivations, not merely obvious financial incentives. Chapter 11: Poirot Pays a Call. Poirot visits Fernley Park officially, carefully inspecting the house and interviewing its residents more thoroughly. His visit begins with Miss Russell, Ackroyd's formidable housekeeper. Poirot observes her closely guarded demeanor and senses she's hiding something significant, yet she reveals nothing new during their conversation. He then talks to Mrs. Cecil Ackroyd, Roger Ackroyd's widowed sister-in-law. She complains bitterly about her difficult financial dependence on Ackroyd, indirectly revealing her anxiety about the family's inheritance issues. Poirot learns that Ralph Peyton's inheritance from Ackroyd is substantial, further motivating suspicion of Ralph. Flora Ackroyd openly confronts Poirot about Ralph's innocence, begging him to find proof to exonerate him. Poirot is sympathetic, but non-committal, carefully keeping all theories open, while reminding everyone that uncovering truth requires patience and meticulous attention to detail. Chapter 12: Round the Table. Poirot gathers key figures in Fernley Park: Dr. Shepherd, Inspector Raglan, Ackroyd's secretary Geoffrey Raymond, and Parker the butler, to reconstruct the exact timeline of events on the murder night. Poirot meticulously charts each person's movements, hoping to identify inconsistencies. Geoffrey Raymond, calm and precise, confirms Ackroyd received Mrs. Ferrars's letter at around 9:30 p.m., shortly before his death. Parker admits he overheard Ackroyd speaking to someone in his study around that time, a critical revelation previously undisclosed. Dr. Shepherd's timeline is clarified. He left the house at approximately 9 p.m. Flora's movements also come under scrutiny, as she claims she saw her uncle alive at 9:45 p.m. Poirot senses discrepancies and hidden motives beneath everyone's accounts, but maintains his careful impartiality, reiterating that small inconsistencies often point toward larger truths. This systematic approach begins to narrow down the possibilities, yet Ralph Peyton's absence continues to cast heavy suspicion on him. Chapter 13. The Goose Quill. Poirot and Dr. Shepherd meet Caroline, whose village gossip provides unexpectedly valuable clues. Caroline, eager to contribute, mentions a strange encounter she overheard involving Ralph Peyton and an unidentified girl in the woods shortly before the murder, discussing financial desperation and Ackroyd's wealth. Poirot treats this clue seriously, believing it could significantly alter the investigation's direction. Meanwhile, Poirot returns to Fernley Park to inspect Ackroyd's study more closely, paying particular attention to an odd goose quill pen, out-of-place items, and furniture arrangements. Poirot theorizes that something crucial, possibly related to Mrs. Ferrars's letter, was deliberately removed from Ackroyd's room immediately after the murder. His keen observation suggests a more complicated scenario involving multiple people with overlapping motives and hidden agendas, challenging the simplistic idea that Ralph Peyton alone is guilty. Chapter 14. Mrs. Ackroyd. Mrs. Cecil Ackroyd comes under Poirot's intense scrutiny again. She reveals further personal frustrations regarding her financial dependency on her. A brother-in-law. Poirot gently pushes, and Mrs. Ackroyd inadvertently admits to rifling through Roger Ackroyd's private papers, desperately hoping to secure her daughter's inheritance. This revelation shocks Poirot and Dr. Shepherd. Although clearly motivated by personal gain, Mrs. Ackroyd adamantly denies any involvement in the murder itself. Poirot senses genuine honesty here, yet he also notes how easily she might rationalize theft or deceit. Flora, distressed by these disclosures about her mother, remains fiercely loyal to Ralph Peyton, convinced of his innocence. Poirot, continuing to methodically document each person's motivation, now sees clearly how Ackroyd's wealth fuels suspicion, jealousy, and betrayal among those closest to him. Chapter 15. Geoffrey Raymond. Poirot next focuses on Geoffrey Raymond, Roger Ackroyd's polite and composed secretary, believing his detailed knowledge of Ackroyd's affairs may conceal something more significant. Under Poirot's careful questioning, Raymond maintains his innocence convincingly, asserting that his loyalty and gratitude toward Ackroyd would preclude any treachery. However, he admits knowing of Ralph Peyton's financial desperation and Ackroyd's recent irritation with Ralph's reckless lifestyle. Poirot subtly pressures Raymond, sensing hidden layers beneath his polished facade. Yet Raymond's explanations remain plausible and consistent, frustrating Poirot's attempt to draw out contradictions. Poirot realizes Raymond's detailed knowledge of Ackroyd's business and personal affairs positions him uniquely to manipulate evidence or circumstances, though he remains outwardly beyond suspicion. Poirot concludes the chapter by acknowledging privately to Dr. Shepherd that everyone involved, including seemingly upright individuals like Raymond, harbors potential motives or secret interests, complicating the case further. Chapter 16. An Evening at Mahjong. Dr. Shepherd and Caroline host a casual evening of mahjong at their home, which unexpectedly turns crucial. Caroline, ever eager to dissect local scandals, invites Miss Gannett and Colonel Carter, two keen observers of village life. The game is soon overshadowed by tense conversation about Roger Ackroyd's murder. Gossip circulates freely, implicating Ralph Peyton heavily, but Caroline staunchly defends him. Suddenly, Hercule Poirot arrives unannounced, skillfully using this informal gathering to observe the villagers' attitudes and opinions. Poirot subtly steers the conversation, noticing small reactions that hint at deeper village secrets. Miss Gannett unknowingly provides Poirot with new information, revealing she saw Flora Ackroyd outside Fernley Park on the night of the murder, conflicting with Flora's own statements. Poirot now suspects Flora may have lied about her movements, prompting him to reconsider previously accepted alibis carefully. Chapter 17. Parker. Poirot focuses his attention again on Parker, Ackroyd's meticulous butler, whose previous vague statements now appear suspicious. During careful questioning, Parker reluctantly admits he once served a family embroiled in blackmail, connecting uncomfortably to Mrs. Ferrars's recent troubles. Poirot senses Parker's evasiveness, but recognizes that Parker, though secretive, lacks clear motive or opportunity for murder. Parker further reveals that on the murder night, he indeed overheard Roger Ackroyd speaking to someone in his study shortly before Ackroyd's death, mentioning something about blackmail explicitly. Poirot, increasingly convinced the blackmail is crucial, revisits the missing letter from Mrs. Ferrars, theorizing the murderer may have taken it to conceal incriminating evidence. Parker's careful, formal manner leads Poirot to believe he remains loyal to the Ackroyd household, yet Poirot suspects he knows more than he admits. Chapter 18. Charles Kent. A new suspicious character emerges. Charles Kent, a rough and mysterious stranger seen loitering near Fernley Park around the time of Ackroyd's murder. Inspector Raglan eagerly pursues Kent, believing he might connect to Ralph Peyton or even the crime itself. Poirot, however, investigates Kent methodically and discovers he has a history of minor criminal activities and drug addiction. Poirot finds Kent's suspicious presence intriguing, but is cautious about jumping to conclusions. Caroline provides another essential clue, noting Kent was seen speaking with Ackroyd's housekeeper, Miss Russell, suggesting unexpected connections between Fernley Park staff and this mysterious outsider. Poirot now believes Kent might indirectly relate to the crime, possibly tied to Miss Russell's guarded behavior or Ackroyd's missing letter, rather than being the direct murderer himself. Chapter 19. Flora Ackroyd. Flora Ackroyd becomes the focal point of Poirot's scrutiny, especially after Miss Gannett's revelation that Flora lied about seeing her uncle alive. Under gentle pressure, Flora eventually confesses she did not enter Ackroyd's study that night, contradicting her initial statement. Poirot sympathetically listens as Flora explains her falsehood. She panicked, fearing Ralph Peyton's guilt, and tried desperately to shield him by pretending her uncle was still alive at a time Ralph was already gone. Poirot understands her intentions but is troubled by her deception. This revelation shakes Flora emotionally, exposing her vulnerability and genuine affection for Ralph. Poirot reassures her that the truth ultimately protects the innocent, yet privately acknowledges her lies complicate his investigation further, as now virtually everyone connected to Ackroyd appears compromised by secrets or deceit. Chapter 20. Miss Russell. Poirot decisively returns to the secretive Miss Russell, the strict and unapproachable housekeeper at Fernley Park, determined to uncover what she hides. When pressed, Miss Russell admits Charles Kent. The strange man loitering near the house is her estranged, troubled son, whom she secretly met that night out of maternal concern. She insists their conversation was entirely personal, not connected to Ackroyd's murder, begging Poirot for discretion. Poirot accepts her explanation, convinced by her raw emotional honesty, yet notes this new revelation adds yet another layer of complexity. Dr. Shepherd, present during these revelations, privately marvels at how intertwined everyone's lives are at Fernley Park, realizing that beneath the polished facade of this English country house lies a web of deeply hidden personal dramas. Poirot acknowledges that unraveling these private secrets is vital, as the murder may be rooted more deeply in personal motives than anyone initially suspected. Chapter 21. The Paragraph in the Paper. A local newspaper publishes a brief paragraph reporting Ralph Peyton's continued disappearance, which causes renewed tension and speculation in King's Abbot. Poirot senses that this piece of news might provoke crucial developments. As expected, the article triggers Ursula Bourne, Ackroyd's quiet parlor maid, to confess a startling secret. She and Ralph Peyton are secretly married. Ursula, emotionally shaken, admits to Poirot and Dr. Shepherd that she had confronted Roger Ackroyd about her marriage to Ralph. Ackroyd, furious at Ralph's irresponsibility and secrecy, reacted harshly, creating a strong motive for Ralph, now desperate and financially vulnerable. This revelation dramatically reshapes Poirot's understanding of events, placing Ursula and Ralph's secret relationship at the core of the mystery and intensifying suspicion toward Ralph. Chapter 22. Ursula's Story. Ursula Bourne shares her full story, revealing a poignant tale of love and secrecy. Previously, from an upper-class background, Ursula deliberately chose domestic work to maintain independence after family disagreements. She and Ralph Peyton fell deeply in love and secretly married, fearing Roger Ackroyd's disapproval due to class differences and Ralph's recklessness. When Ursula finally revealed the truth, Ackroyd angrily threatened Ralph with financial ruin, deeply unsettling Ursula. Poirot listens compassionately, but carefully notes the tension this created. Ursula insists Ralph could never commit murder, yet Poirot recognizes that Ralph's desperation for money and fear of disinheritance could have pushed him dangerously close to violence. Dr. Shepherd, listening intently, sees clearly how tangled personal loyalties and hidden motives have shaped this tragedy, complicating Poirot's investigation further. Chapter 23. Poirot's Little Reunion. Poirot gathers all key suspects at Fernley Park for a carefully orchestrated little reunion, aiming to clarify details and provoke reactions. Present are Dr. Shepherd, Flora Ackroyd, Mrs. Cecil Ackroyd, Geoffrey Raymond, Major Blunt, Ursula Bourne, Miss Russell, Parker, and Inspector Raglan. Poirot calmly lays out all known facts, dramatically revealing Ursula's marriage to Ralph, shocking Flora, who believed herself engaged to Ralph for social convenience rather than affection. Poirot meticulously revisits everyone's statements, pinpointing subtle inconsistencies. He openly questions Flora about the theft of money. She tearfully admits stealing to settle personal debts, ashamed but innocent of murder. Poirot demonstrates remarkable compassion, understanding human weakness without judgment, but firmly emphasizing that truth alone can clear suspicion. His careful, empathetic approach steadily peels away layers of deception, bringing clarity but also discomfort to those involved. Chapter 24. Ralph Peyton's Story. At last, Poirot reveals that Ralph Peyton, previously missing, has been found and kept safely hidden by Poirot himself. Ralph appears anxious yet eager to clear his name. He admits fleeing in panic after Ackroyd's murder, knowing suspicion would inevitably fall on him due to his confrontation with Ackroyd and their bitter quarrel. Ralph denies any role in the murder, providing a convincing alibi supported by Poirot's earlier hidden inquiries. Poirot carefully reconstructs Ralph's movements, verifying his innocence and removing the strongest suspicion. This revelation significantly shifts the investigation, forcing everyone, including Inspector Raglan, to rethink assumptions. Poirot's careful handling underscores his belief in meticulous evidence over hasty judgment, gradually narrowing the suspect pool as Ralph, the most obvious culprit, is convincingly cleared. Chapter 25. The Whole Truth. Poirot systematically re-examines the timeline and each suspect's motives, finally revealing critical overlooked details. He exposes the truth about the mysterious phone call alerting Dr. Shepard to Ackroyd's death. This call was deliberately arranged using a pre-recorded dictaphone message, carefully timed to mislead witnesses. Poirot points out this ingenious deception required intimate knowledge of Ackroyd's habits and household. He emphasizes the killer had easy access to Ackroyd's study and knew precisely how to manipulate events post-murder. As suspicion increasingly narrows, Poirot draws attention to subtle, previously unnoticed details that implicate someone trusted and close, someone whose presence and testimony were unquestioned. The assembled guests listen anxiously as Poirot masterfully reconstructs the crime, clearly illustrating that the murderer must have been someone respected and trusted enough to hide seamlessly within the community. Chapter 26. And Nothing But the Truth. In a dramatic conclusion, Poirot unmasks Dr. James Shepard himself as the murderer, stunning everyone. Poirot methodically explains how Shepard cleverly orchestrated Ackroyd's murder, motivated by greed and blackmail. Shepard had learned Mrs. Ferrars was being blackmailed and used this knowledge to extract money from her, driving her to suicide. When she wrote to Ackroyd exposing Shepard's actions, Shepard killed Ackroyd to prevent discovery. Shepard's seemingly innocent narrative throughout the case disguised his true role, carefully manipulating evidence and misleading Poirot's investigation. Poirot details Shepard's meticulous plan, including the innovative phone call trick with the dictaphone, Shepard's fake alibi, and deliberate false trails designed to frame Ralph Peyton. Shepard, confronted with undeniable proof, quietly admits guilt, acknowledging Poirot's brilliance. Poirot offers Shepard a chance for dignity, encouraging him privately to spare his sister Caroline and the community the scandal of a public trial by taking responsibility himself. Shepard solemnly agrees, realizing Poirot's deep humanity beneath his relentless pursuit of truth. Chapter 27. Apologia. The final chapter shifts dramatically in tone, written as a personal, introspective confession from Dr. James Shepard himself, addressing the reader directly. With a reflective and almost clinical clarity, Shepard meticulously recounts his actions and motives behind Roger Ackroyd's murder. He confirms how the impulse to kill Ackroyd arose after Mrs. Ferrars's suicide, fearing exposure as her blackmailer. Shepard acknowledges he carefully orchestrated the murder, placing suspicion onto Ralph Peyton. exploiting Flora Ackroyd's misguided attempts to shield Ralph and skillfully employing the dictaphone to fabricate an alibi. In this revealing confession, Shepherd addresses Hercule Poirot's unerring skill and intuition, admitting that from the beginning he underestimated the quiet Belgian detective's genius. Shepherd's calm, detached manner starkly contrasts with the gravity of his crimes. Acknowledging Poirot's compassion in allowing him the dignity of privately settling his affairs, Shepherd indicates he plans to spare his sister Caroline and the village from further scandal. In a somber, regretful tone, Shepherd recognizes the inevitability of justice, deciding on suicide as the final act in his tragedy. His confession ends quietly, hauntingly, as he prepares to meet his self-inflicted fate, bringing closure to his narrative and leaving readers reflecting on morality, deception, and the human capacity for hidden evil. Epilogue. In the weeks that followed Dr. Shepherd's quiet passing, King's Abbot gradually returned to its outward semblance of peaceful normality. The village breathed a collective sigh of relief, yet beneath its calm surface lay a newfound wariness, a subtle awareness that even the most familiar, trusted faces could mask profound darkness. Caroline Shepherd, whose sharp instincts had guided village gossip for decades, retreated into a reflective silence, mourning her brother with dignity. She had lost more than family. She had lost the certainty she once placed in her understanding of human nature. Yet, in quiet moments shared over cups of tea, she privately admitted to Poirot her appreciation for his discretion, compassion, and wisdom in handling the tragedy. They formed an unlikely friendship, based on mutual respect and an understated acknowledgement of human frailty. Ralph Peyton and Ursula Bourne, their secrets finally laid bare, chose to leave King's Abbot behind. They moved to Canada, determined to build a new life free from shadows of suspicion, supported quietly by Flora Ackroyd and Major Blunt, who themselves had found companionship amid the turmoil. Fernley Park, its halls once filled with secrets, stood empty for a time, a somber reminder of betrayal and loss. Eventually new residents arrived, blissfully unaware of its haunting history. Inspector Raglan, humbled by Poirot's methodical brilliance, returned to Cranchester, forever influenced by the gentle Belgian's philosophy that truth is always found in patience, compassion, and rigorous attention to detail. Poirot himself, content in having unraveled another complex web of human deceit, resumed his quiet retirement. Yet he was forever changed by this case, a sobering reminder that evil often wears a mask of respectability, hidden behind familiar smiles and polite conversation. Though the world saw him as a man driven by intellect, those who knew him closely, like Caroline Shepherd, recognized a deeper truth. Hercule Poirot sought not just justice but also understanding and compassion in a flawed and complicated world. King's Abbot, now forever altered, slowly reclaimed its peace. Yet it would always remember the gentle, meticulous detective who taught them all to look deeper, to question appearances, and to recognize the quiet truths that linger behind closed doors. Thank you for listening. If you like this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, and do not forget to press the bell icon for our upcoming videos.